Hi, and welcome. This is the manager's desk. My name is Evan Baltz. I'm a marketing technology leader and a team builder. I had a question about the best way to do the day-to-day process things as a manager. This is kind of near and dear to my heart because I love a good process. In fact, one of the first things that I do at any organization that I go to or any suggestions I make when I consult with organizations is to talk about SOPs, standard operating procedures. Now, most people, when they hear those terms, roll their eyes or look frustrated or bored or yuck, can't we just do whatever? Right? Um, sometimes it sounds rigid, it sounds restricting. And aren't we an agile environment? Why do we need standard operating procedures? The most important reason why you need them is because employees need that security that they bring, right? It's a clear expectation, not only for the person doing the work, what am I expected to do and how am I expected to do it, for the people requesting the work. Here's how you request work, and here's the process that it's going to go through so that they have a clear understanding of what that process is, how long it's going to take, who's involved, what it means, what the implications are. Um, Nothing creates a more difficult work environment than one that's chaotic. You'll sometimes hear buzzwords for that, either when you're in a job interview or organizations are talking about themselves, especially I think sometimes startups, smaller organizations who talk about how we're flexible and we're all about just getting things done. I think if you were to ask the employees, the words that they would use would be chaos, frustration, crisis management, constant emergencies. That's how your employees are interpreting that. You might hear words like, we're a fast pace environment where we have to do this and we have to do that. What you don't have to do is burn out your employees, right? And you don't have to frustrate them. And having well written SOPs that are understood by everyone and bought into by everyone within the organization produces a fair environment for the work to be requested and the work to get done. We'll talk in a future podcast more about the agile side of that. But in terms of the standard operating procedures, there are some critical ones. One are the day-to-day pieces of it, right? What are my day-to-day expectations? This is more for just the employees on your team or within your department, right? What's a standard response time that one might expect from an email, for instance, or from a Slack message, or from a text, or whatever it might be? What are the standard meeting protocols for your team and for your organization? What are the standard vacation requests? And I'm not talking about the HR policies here. I'm talking about within your team. What are the expectations you have of yourself, your team members, your coworkers in terms of taking time off, requesting time off, and then letting others on the team know when you are gone? These are all seemingly sometimes insignificant type things, but if you don't nail the details on these, it can make life really frustrating and it can be unfair for employees as well. So I think it's clear to define those expectations, make sure everybody understands them, talk about them in one-on-ones. And it's not as if you're putting down rules and regulations. These are common practices that are best for the benefit of everybody, right? If I ask someone to, hey, mark on your calendar that you're going to be out a certain day, it's not because I'm micromanaging you. It's because it's important for your coworkers to know that you're not going to be there so that they can take up the slack while you're out. Um, some illustrations of that might be, hey, when you're going to be out, you leave an Outlook calendar notice of an all day saying when you're going to be out and share it with all your team members. It may say, make sure to put an out of office reminder on and say who your backup is and where anybody requesting information can go for further help. Maybe it's a project manager, scrum master, whatever it might be. Providing everyone with that information up front makes it much better for the entire team and the organization. Um, I've had employees in the past kind of hem and haw. It's like, oh man, I really got to do a calendar, or I really got to do this. So I have in the past, in sort of a sarcastic way, say, I just did one and I put a stopwatch to it, 28 seconds or 5 minutes, whatever it might be. It's not too much to ask for those simple things that can make life a lot easier for the entire team. You might want to have an SOP on who's going to handle things when someone is out, right? And share that out with the entire team. Hey, look, if employee A is gone, employee B takes their spot, right? And vice versa. That just lets the entire organization know that you have plans, right? That you have thought through scenarios and that you have a plan for that. Another critical SOP to have is how you're going to take work and process work. And we'll get into that, like I mentioned, more in an agile session, but making it clear that this is the acceptable way to submit work, and here's the process that it's going to go through, and here are the significant people. Probably involves the platform you're going to use, maybe it's Jira, whatever it might be, to track the work. But make that clear to everybody. Here's the process. And then this is one that you need the support of the entire organization, of course, especially project manager, the other managers and directors, to let them know this is how we will receive the work. And if it comes in a different way, we won't receive it. We will direct you back to the process, right? And the reason that we do that is because we schedule all of the work, we fill up our hours, and we assign this work out so they can get done in the most efficient way. If you come in sideways with a request, hey, can you just sneak this in on the side? That disrupts that process and it puts the employee in a very difficult situation. So as a manager, I like to protect my employees from that, from being approached sideways to take work and being guilted into it, or being threatened into it, or having a superior sort of, pull rank. Well, I'm a VP, therefore I can tell you whatever to do. I want to protect employees from that type of approach and that type of culture. They will appreciate that there is a standard procedure for receiving work. Another important one is for what are you going to do in an emergency? Like I said before, there are some bad managers, there are some bad people within organizations who seemingly create emergencies or critical situations on a daily basis when it's not necessary. And you can get caught in the trap of then always being reactive to this person. And let me talk psychology for a minute. When someone is a gas thrower, I'll call it, when someone creates emergencies, artificially critical situations, it is an attempt to show a certain type of leadership and a certain type of authority over other people. Sometimes people will create their own emergency just so that they can solve it through their team to make themselves look good. They might even do that subconsciously, right? But as a manager, you owe it to your team to protect them against that type of thinking, against that type of manipulation, and at the end of the day, against that type of anxiety, right? Who wants to have that type of anxiety? Having a plan can solve all of that. So your SOP needs to think about all the potential places where something might fail, because it will. Things break, They can and will break, and no company is immune from that, especially when you're talking about software, websites, whatever. Things break, things go down, things happen. You can't stop that, right? There is nothing that is perfect. There's nothing that's flawless. It will it will eventually break. So acknowledging that and then saying, okay, what's the plan if it does? I think it's important to prioritize those, right? Is it revenue impacting, right? If it is, then that's something that needs to be addressed immediately. Could it potentially have a revenue impact? But we're not sure about it. Then that would kind of be the second level. And the third level would be, hey, it's a typo. Nobody's going to die, right? It's just the image needs to be moved. That wasn't the one we chose. These are things that probably only the internal people will really recognize. There's no real costs associated with them. And the best recommendation is to just handle those in the normal course of work, right? If it's truly something, an issue that needs to be resolved immediately, have a place, have steps that you will take to do that. And the first step isn't to call everybody with your hair on fire, right? I don't know how many times somebody has said, oh my gosh, something's broken. I send them an email. Here's the process. Here are the steps that we're going to take. And we will report back every 15 minutes, every half hour, every hour until resolve. And then we'll tell you what the resolution is and what the root cause was. That puts people at ease. Just knowing that you have a plan, right? Like not even the solving it itself, but knowing that you have a plan. Um, it's not everybody's specialty though. And there are people who will still continue to push to just ad hoc create panic for whatever reason and think that something isn't going to get resolved unless everybody's in a panic. I don't really understand that mentality. And I think it's important as a manager to be a source of calm for your team, a source of reason to others within the department to say, look, my team is addressing this. It is going to go through this process. There's nothing that you can do to speed that up. Ultimately, we will come to a solution and then we'll let you know what happened and report on whatever else might be an issue. You might think that employees, will think that it's too rigid to have SOPs, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's there for their protection. And it's there to let everyone else within the organization, within the department, understand that you know what your job is, what your team's job is, what you're responsible and accountable for, and that you have a plan. At the end of the day, that will create an environment where people feel safe and feel like they're a part of something that is a well-oiled machine rather than just constantly reacting and overreacting to stimuli and situations and emergencies. That burns out team members and organizations faster than anything does. If you're a senior leader, I would caution you against that approach. And I would ensure that your managers and directors have a plan for how they're going to handle things. Um, Ask for them to develop a plan if you haven't already. Also, as a manager, when developing these, ask for your employees' input, right? Have a soft launch period where you say, here are some things that I've identified. Now shoot some holes in it, right? Tell me where this is wrong or this won't be helpful for you and the work that you're going to do. And then once you've kind of come to consensus on that, then share it with other department heads and say, this is how we're going to approach it. What issues do you see with this? I've asked a lot of project managers and a lot of other directors, what is your biggest impediment to doing work efficiently, to having SOPs, to having an agile environment? The answer is always senior leaders. They're not bought into it. And it happens at every level of organization, it seems like. And it can be very frustrating when you don't have the support of senior leaders for a process that's going to make everything better. It's going to help them be a better leader. It's going to help their organization perform at a higher level. You have to pitch that and make sure that everyone understands what the purpose of the document is. It's not a CYA. It is to communicate effectively how we are going to most efficiently get our work done. And here's the process for that. That shouldn't be a hard sell. It's surprising that sometimes it is. Work together to get the consensus on that, and then make sure that it's supported on a weekly and monthly basis by all of the leaders within the organization. That is critical to the success. You could have a great set of managers and directors who are doing all this work only to be undercut by an executive who is more comfortable just leading as a dictator, right? You probably experienced that at some point in your management career or as an employee, and it's very frustrating. SOPs can help create a stable, efficient, and high performance environment for you and your team. And I think it's something that is critical to the success of your team and you as a manager. Something to talk about with you. If you haven't developed them in the past and you have questions about that, leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to assist and advise in any way that I can on how to produce those. I even have some samples that I could share with you. Just reach out to me in the comments. As always, all of the Manager's Desk podcasts are available on Spotify. You can listen to them on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. And until next time, we'll see you.